Welcome to Pop Culture Roulette for all your pop culture needs. We're America's podcast.
Hey, that's my line.
All right, welcome everybody. Welcome recent college grad and birthday boy Jeremy,
Woo!
Hey,
Yay!
and welcome surprise party guest Justin.
yeah,
Yay!
recently woke up.
Um, Congratulations, Jeremy, on finally getting it done,
Thank you.
and
Yeah,
I guess congratulations on another year around the sun.
I'll take it. Yeah, that was a fun party. It's
Yeah.
cool.
Your dad threw you a bit of a surprise party we were all at last night. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
And he was surprised.
Yes.
genuinely.
Right.
Yeah.
And being able to see your look on the face on your face when you walked in the door, I could tell that it was a genuine surprise because there was a look of bewilderment of like, hey, I know that person. Hey, wait, I know that person. I know that person. Wait, why are all my friends here?
Yeah, that was pretty wild.
Yeah.
I felt it was very difficult to try to hit all the groups. There was
Uh,
a lot of people,
Yeah.
but
yeah, I
it
mean
was
that happens. I mean, being the center of the party is difficult, but it was fun.
it's good. Food was good.
Yeah. So,
All right.
Ron did a pretty good job of putting that together
Yeah.
and managing to keep it from a surprise from you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Shout out to Ron.
Yeah, and it was all fun and games until the karaoke started.
Ah, didn't know they were gonna do that.
Nope, I'll say that we were hoping it'd be like some bar trivia or something. We're like, all right, all right.
Mm,
And then when he said karaoke, Justin and I were like, think it's time to bounce.
mm,
Yeah. Well, it's past my bedtime anyways.
So we're in the middle of the playoffs. Obviously, the bad thing happened last week, and we had to take the week off so that we could just get back into maybe
Yeah.
a slightly better headspace.
Yeah, if we would have recorded right after the loss, it would have been pretty rough. But then, the next morning we woke up and the Vikings were out of it and the sun was shining a little brighter. The air was a little crisper.
mm. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this loss at least wasn't as devastating as some of our previous losses.
No, and I think there's a lot to build on. I mean, yeah, it would have been nice, and they probably could have or should have beat the Eagles. Some
Twice.
super questionable calls early in the game, but
Mhm.
some bad play calling, some coaching blunders. I think ultimately was responsible. I think with a few offensive tweaks, that team's going to be really tough to beat next year.
Yeah. I think we need
Uh,
a legit number one wide receiver.
yeah.
Bring home Devontae.
Do you really want that headache back?
Yes.
You know who I think we should go after? T. Higgins.
I I don't know.
I I
I don't know if T. Higgins is a one.
I think
He's never proven it. He's a very solid two behind Chase.
right because you
And
have
when Chase gets hurt, Higgins is not the same player.
but when you have Jamar Chase a legit number one on any team and maybe one of the better wide receivers that's ever set foot on the game, it's really hard to say that T. Higgins wouldn't be a number one with Jordan Love, especially given the support that he would have behind some of those other receivers. So,
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not feeling that one.
but let's talk about something a little bit well, not as
Sadder than the
Hmm.
Packers being bounced out of the
sadder,
playoffs.
sadder, but at the same time, I think we're going to try to be happy, not be happy about it, but like you make it as much fun as we possibly can. Because this man brought a lot of joy to not just Milwaukee, but the country
Mhm.
for a long time. Bob Uecker,
Mr. Baseball.
Mr. Baseball himself, passed away a couple days ago. Obviously, he meant a lot to Milwaukee. I mean, he was the voice of the Brewers for 54 years.
Mhm.
He played. I mean, he was born in Milwaukee, so he's been in Milwaukee for 90 years.
Yeah.
He signed with the Milwaukee Braves in '56. Um, Jumped around the major leagues for a couple years. Played for the Cardinals, the Phillies. Managed to play for the Atlanta Braves. Uh, Won the World Series with the Cardinals. But that's not why he's well known because his career stats:
Art.
162 career games. So, like, I mean, he played for 6 years, but managed to only play a season worth of games.
Maybe seasons were shorter back then.
They were a little shorter. 146 hits, 14 career home runs,
Ah,
74 RBIs, a 200 career batting average.
that's still better than any of us.
That is true. However, he did have a 981 fielding percentage as a catcher. He was actually a solid backup. Um, so he did good. He retired in '67. Started broadcasting for the Brewers in '71, making him one of the longest serving broadcasters for a single team, outside of a guy named Denny Matthews, who's currently working for the Kansas City Royals, who started calling for them in '69.
Dang. That's a
So,
long that is a long time to be calling baseball.
I mean, just think about the baseball that he saw over just, I mean, for his playing days. I mean, from he signed with the Braves in '56, but he didn't make it to the majors until '62. So he had a couple years down in the minors, all around the state of Wisconsin. But think about all the players he played with. I mean, he said one of his crowning achievements was getting intentionally walked by Sandy Koufax.
Oh, wow.
So,
You don't really think about that.
I mean, you think about the fact that, he was playing with Sandy Koufax and Mickey Mantle and some of those guys. And then
Yeah.
the last game that he called, he was talking about Jackson Cheerio and Pete Alonso and, a bunch of those other guys on the Mets and some of the rising stars that the Brewers have. I mean, the breadth of that man's career. I mean, professional baseball from 1956 until 2025.
Yeah, in some capacity.
Yeah. Um, And strangely enough, I found this out while I was reading a bunch of stuff about him. Until 2021, had never had an official contract with the Milwaukee Brewers.
So he just showed up every day?
He just had a handshake deal with all the owners that he was the broadcaster.
Oh,
Like just and the only reason he finally signed a deal was that his SAG membership went because he hadn't been in a movie or a TV show for so long. He needed the health insurance, so they put him on. They had to officially give him a contract.
Hmm.
Hired him as an official Brewers announcer. Um, he is in the Radio Hall of Fame as of 2001, the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame as of 2003, the Wisconsin Athletic Hall of Fame as of '98. And I know he never really had a number, so they don't officially list 50 as being retired, but I know it's in the Ring of Honor for
right.
when he was with the team for 50 years.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they're going to do this year. I don't know if they're going to officially retire the number 50.
Everyone will wear number 50 on the opening day, like they do for Jackie Robinson.
Yeah. But
That's
I
just
don't.
that's speculation. I don't know if the Brewers will actually do that.
Do you think they'll move it to 54 just because he was with the team for 54 years, or
What number did he wear?
I don't know
I
because he
don't
never
remember that.
actually played for the Brewers. He played for the Milwaukee Braves,
Yeah, so you could say the same thing about Hank Aaron, but
but
they still have Milwaukee, I think, has his number retired.
but Hank Aaron actually played for the Brewers after he finished playing with. I mean, I know he went from the Milwaukee Braves to the Atlanta Braves. He came back around to the Milwaukee Brewers, didn't he?
I don't think so. I'll
Oh,
look.
but on top of
Oh,
being
he wore number 8.
Euchre,
Yeah.
okay. So I don't know if everybody will have a number 8 patch or a 54 patch. They're definitely going to have some kind of patch on the uniform all season. It's really sad that he never got to see the Brewers win it all.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
that just means we're going to win it this year in honor of Euchre.
I hope so. I
Yeah.
mean, as a Brewer, supporter, and I will never sell out and become a Brewer fan, unlike I did with the Packers. Um, I my allegiances with baseball are definitely with the Angels, but since the Brewers
And
are
then the Rangers, we know.
fuck the Rangers. I mean, it's a different podcast and a different sport, but Rangers eat nuts.
Mhm.
Um, but no, because the Brewers are National League, I can root for them, and for the most part, 99% of the time, I don't have to worry about whether or not I have to root against the Brewers. With like one series a year, and then on the off chance that they both make the World Series, I won't have to actively root against the Brewers.
Yeah.
And I honestly think at this point, before the season started, before spring training, because we're still a couple weeks away from spring training starting up. I don't think pitchers and catchers don't report for most teams until February 12th, February 13th. So a couple weeks away from that starting. But I mean, as we said, like I think the Angels will be a better baseball team this year than they were last year. But I don't see us as ready to make the jump to World Series contender.
That's fair. I mean, we say the same thing about the Brewers.
I
They'll be better, but I don't see them being contenders.
I don't know. I mean, with what
Especially
they
with
were
the
able,
Dodgers trying to buy another one.
I honestly think that the Dodgers have put so much money and so much personnel into one team that it's going to clog that team up, and that team is just going to be a dysfunction.
I'd, I'd be happy to see it, but I don't know.
And I also think that there's going to be some rule changes in a couple seasons when the CBA expires in 2 years because that this is just getting ridiculous. But on top of Bob Uecker's baseball, Bob Uecker also did a bunch of acting or just entertainment work. He did over 100 appearances on Johnny Carson because Johnny Carson listed him as one of his all-time favorite guests.
Is it Johnny Carson the one who first called him Mr. Baseball?
Possibly,
I believe.
possibly. He hosted Saturday Night Live back in 1984. I want to say I should have wrote that down. Um, he did Mr. Belvedere for 5 years from 85 to 90, which was a show that I really enjoyed as a kid. I have not tried to watch it in a long time, so I don't know how well it would hold up. Um, Jeremy, have you ever seen Mr. Belvedere?
No.
Okay, I had to say, I know it's before you, but I didn't know. Maybe.
I've seen an episode here and there, but I've never seen enough of it to really
Yeah,
be
I didn't
like, oh
know.
yeah, I've watched a lot of it.
I didn't know if because it was here in Milwaukee, if it ran in syndication more than other places, but um, he did three major league movies. So the first one that was good, the second one that was, and then the third one that people
Was
don't like
that
to talk about.
back to the minors? Was that the third one?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the thing that has been, the most, I think the thing that people have kind of glommed onto the most with the tributes is the Miller Lite commercials with, "Oh, I guess I should be in the front row," or whatever the exact
Yeah,
line was.
and they move him.
Yeah, to the like the back row, like the
Where he's got a statue there now.
yep. Well,
He's all what?
the euchre seats in American Family Field are Miller Park.
Yeah.
Basically like the last row of the stadium.
He he also did stuff with WWF at the time.
Yeah,
He was at WrestleMania with Andre the Giant. But that's I always think of that moment when he tells him to get his foot off his shoulder. Do you think I've seen a bunch of people post that because it used to be what Miller Parkway, and
yeah.
then now it's because it's AmFam Field. I think it's Brewers Boulevard.
I'm
I
hoping.
I keep seeing a lot of people saying they should change it to Bob Uecker Boulevard.
Yeah, or just Euchre Boulevard, one of the,
Yeah,
yeah.
I like Bob Uecker Boulevard. It flows pretty nicely.
Well, I mean, they've got that feel, or not the field, the track or whatever the hiking trail around Ampam Field and parts of Milwaukee is the Hank Aaron Trail.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, and I already know that parts of the parking lot were, definitely named after Bob Uecker.
Yeah,
But I mean, he was for a long time when the Brewers were really bad. I mean, at least the last, 5 to 10 years, the Brewers have actually had like good teams,
right.
and they've been to the playoffs a bunch the last couple of years where they hadn't been in the 20 something years before then. There was a long time where the only reason to turn into Brewers games, either on TV and then mainly just the radio, was to listen to Bob Uecker. I mean, he had some incredible stories and he was
Yes.
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to go to a bunch of games when I was younger at what the county field. County Stadium.
Yeah.
Can't believe I forgot the name of it. And I'd like see him walking in the concourse. But I don't remember how old I was, 9, 10. So I was never like, I'm gonna go up and talk to this guy. But I remember seeing him around the stadium.
I mean, you hear when listening to Bob and Brian, you hear them talk about interacting with euchre all the time, and or you hear people tell. I mean, I've lived. I'm this summer I will have lived in Wisconsin for unless you don't count the year or two that I was moving around the country. I moved here in 20 years ago this summer, so I've met
Dang.
a lot of people who have interacted with Bob Uecker or ran into him at a grocery store or just somewhere, and I've never heard anybody tell a bad story about Uecker. Like it's never been like, oh man, that guy's a dick. Like
Right.
every story is like, oh yeah, I ran into Uecker. He was so much fun, or you know,
Yeah, there's some sports figures like Leroy Butler. I've never heard anything bad about him.
you know, and just like he was so funny that I mean, he got a career of getting he got a sitcom and movies and commercials because he was so funny. Like Johnny Carson had him on, like I said, about 100 times, which probably means if he did Carson 100 times, he probably did Letterman a lot and Leno and
Yeah. Hmm.
so I mean it's a big I mean it's a big loss for baseball. I mean it's a big but I mean I think it's just a big loss. I mean Milwaukee obviously because he's from here and as my now adopted home he's a big part of this city. He was a big part of why the Brewers were worth watching or just keeping baseball alive. And obviously I love baseball more than any other sport. I know
That's
you tend to be more into football, but
Jeremy,
I
where do you go? Football?
Definitely.
um I read that he was pretty heavily involved with the Admirals here or there. I mean, they've had Bob Uecker like jersey night, to
Yeah.
like they've designed their jerseys to look kind of like his kind of crazier jackets.
You think they'll do a Bob Uecker giveaway this
Uh, they'll
Probably an all fan giveaway for something
they'll probably do many Bob Uecker giveaways this year.
this season.
I mean, if opening day isn't, I mean, opening day is already always a sellout, but you know they're going to be doing some sort of massive Bob Uecker tribute to
Yeah,
start.
something not something on the big screen.
So, I I saw some of the images of them like putting like turning the lights off and then running the big screen with like some sort of Bob Uecker tribute that you could see. But I'm
Yeah.
kind of surprised they didn't open the stadium for people to like come in and watch it. Or I know I've seen the pictures of the people leaving all the Miller Lite cans and other stuff in
Mhm.
front of the Bob Uecker statue there at AmFam. I will say I've always found it odd. So, Justin, I know that you tend to collect a lot more sports memorabilia than either of us do. If you had like some sort of commemorative Bob Uecker jersey, or not just a regular bobblehead, but like some sort of special sports memorabilia, would you go leave that at the tribute?
No, absolutely. I saw that when someone had the Euchre jersey there, and I thought the
Yeah,
same thing. I'm like, there's no way.
right. Like I
Like,
get, I get maybe buying flowers and leaving them, or balloons, or
can of beer.
the cans of beer. I get that, but like these people were leaving like the jerseys and hats and like kind of one of a kind
I
memorabilia.
I could see like a hat, unless like nothing signed, but like a normal Brewer hat, a Braves
Right.
hat.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I just, it's, I mean, it's incredibly sad, but I mean, to be fair, I mean, he was 90 and I guess they've kept it quiet, but I guess the Brewers had a pretty good idea that the last game he called was probably going to be the last game that he ever
Yeah,
called.
because
Um,
he had what was it, small cell lung cancer or something?
yeah, some kind of cancer,
Yeah.
but and I'm not sure that he was planning on coming back to do this season, even if he hadn't passed away. I think that's kind of what
I
I'm
think
starting to hear, but
I think he would have done what he's done in the past, where he comes in occasionally. Because for the
the
last couple of years, he hasn't been doing all the games.
no, he stopped going on the road unless it was
Yeah.
something really important a while ago.
So I
But I
could have
mean,
seen him coming in every so often.
even when the Brewers like clinched the division, or not this year because they didn't win the last time they won the playoffs, like he was out there like celebrating with a shirt off and like spraying
Do,
himself down with beer.
doing the chainsaw.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
he brought an energy and a life to baseball. He People like him are why listening to baseball on the radio is as fun as it is. Like it's hard to listen to football on the radio. I've done it, and the Packer guys are okay at it, but it's damn near impossible to listen to basketball or hockey on the radio.
Yeah.
But people like Bob Uecker or Vin Scully are the reason why what like being able to watch it or listen to it on the radio is possible. And I just don't know how we have that anymore. But I mean, look at some of the people that have been through the Brewers that have kind of worked under Uecker. I mean, how many play-by-play radio guys work for other teams now that used to work side by side with Uecker? I mean, because he trained them.
Yeah. There's I can't name them, but I know there's quite a
No,
few.
I the list was too long for me to write down. Oh, and he did an episode of Futurama.
Hmm. Oh yeah.
He was one of the heads in the jar.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's gonna be different listening to Brewers games.
yeah. I mean, his talking about like he said, I don't remember the name of the pitcher that he hit a grand slam off of. He said the coach for the opposing team came out to get the guy out of the game, and he brought his luggage with him.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one where it says what does he say? He was minor league player of the year, his second league in the majors, his second year in the majors. Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so, I mean, and obviously, I don't know as the the new break, or I guess new, or the guys that have been doing the play by play who will just become the permanent like everyday guys instead of the when he wasn't doing it. I do you have to retire the get up, get out? It's gone.
Oh, you butchered that.
Yeah, I did, didn't I?
Get up, get out of here, gone. I think it's gonna be they're gonna have it like a button,
Yeah.
and they'll play it in Euchre's voice on the home runs.
Okay.
I don't
Yeah.
think they'll say it. I think it'll be one of those, I don't know, sound bites that they'll play. I hope.
Yeah. But yeah, it's going to be different, and like I mean, that was one of the nice things about going to the game in Brewers, and, in actually watching baseball in the AmPam field, was that when you weren't sitting in the field watching the game, they had his call piped through the stadium. So like when you were in the concession stand or going to the bathroom, like you could hear Euchre
Yeah,
calling the game. So sometimes it was more fun to go hang out in the concession land stand line because you got to hear him.
right. Especially those days you're sitting on third base in the sun, just go hang out, watch the TV, and listen to Euchre. Hmm.
Yeah. So any other Euchre memories or any interact? I mean, obviously none of us actually met the man.
Yeah, I just see him walking through the stadium. But no, like I think of I think of the Miller Lite commercials, and then I think of the WrestleMania thing he did with Andre. Besides baseball, besides just baseball, those are like the main two that pop into my head.
I don't.
And you singer sausages,
Well, but I Major League. I mean, I think the movie that
right?
introduced, him to most of the country outside of Mr. Belvedere, that just when Wild Thing, when Charlie Sheen's like, hitting people in the on deck circle, and he's like just a bit outside.
Yeah, was it Harry Doyle? Is
Yeah,
that his
Harry
name?
Doyle. Yeah, which
I might need to rewatch those. At
yeah,
least the first one.
yeah. The second one isn't terrible, but it's definitely not as good as the first one.
Right.
And then the third one is just not. Yeah.
Doesn't exist.
Yeah. I mean, I guess maybe in honor of him, watch it just to, you know, but
Hmm. All right.
any anything else to add?
Nope.
Baseball won't be the same. That's all I can add.
No, no, that is true. All right. Well, I mean, just to continue to, keep it down and depressing, we also lost David Lynch, the day after we lost Bob Uecker, or maybe even the same day. David Lynch, I mean, visionary is a word that gets thrown out a lot, but I think he's just so weird and so out there. I mean, some of the movies that I've watched with him are just really bizarre. But he directed, and he directed a lot. He directed a lot of music videos recently. Like he kind of gave up on movies and just started making music. He was just one of those kind of strange men who just did kind of what it marched to the beat of his own drummer. But I mean, he directed the TV show and the movies for Twin Peaks, Mulholland Drive, Lost Highway, Blue Velvet, Dune from back in the 80s. So the really weird Dune, Elephant Man and Eraserhead. He was,
You're naming a lot of things I've never seen.
Go watch Eraserhead. It's
did,
classic.
have you seen it?
Yeah.
No.
I've never seen it. Is it as weird as they described it?
Yeah.
That was one of
Especially
his
the
first
80s.
movies. Uh, he's been nominated three times for Best Director for Mulholland Drive, Blue Velvet, and The Elephant Man. Elephant Man, he also got nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay. They gave him an honorary Oscar in 2019. He got 8 Emmy nominations for various different things for both versions of Twin Peaks he did on TV. George Lucas loved Eraserhead so much he actually offered him the to direct Return of the Jedi,
That's crazy.
and David Lynch said no, he didn't want to do a studio film.
Wow.
or he wasn't inspired. He said, but it's your film, you go do it. So
All right.
he went out and directed Dune instead, which I've never watched all of, but it's super weird. I mean, it's David Lynch. Of course, it's super weird.
Hmm.
He was also an artist. He had a lot of art shows. He was a musician. He put out a few albums. Um, Obviously, he was a director. I guess he was also really into the weather
Oh
for the
yeah.
last couple years of his life. He did like YouTube videos of just like weather reports in LA. Like, yeah, it was he was a bizarre, weird man that just kind of, like I said, marched to the beat of his own drum. And people see watching his stuff. It's like I didn't get a lot of it, but like you don't want to admit that because he's trying to say something or he's doing something here, and I just don't want to feel too dumb for saying I didn't understand it, but
Right.
you know, but yeah, maybe I will finally break down and watch Eraserhead.
Yeah, pretty much everything you've named I have not seen. So I was like, yikes.
But
Was his like was he battling with something too? Like there was a while coming?
yes, yeah, it was also some kind of lung cancer.
Oh, what?
That was my impression of a David Lynch movie. Oh. I can't wait to see
Okay.
what kind of horrific or abomination of an image generated for this episode.
You could just throw up the Brewers logo.
Euchre with like 16 fingers.
You know how many times it takes me to get it that I mean how many times I have to get that thing to generate an image before I finally get one that's
I
not.
believe
That
it.
that's deemed usable.
Yeah, because for being the smart AI thing, it does not know how to spell at all.
I don't either, so it's fine.
Like
It's dyslexic like me.
Mhm.
and
Don't
like
worry,
every time you're
Sauter.
like
Don't sell yourself short. You can kick that thing's ass.
and every time you ask it why it doesn't know how to spell, it gives some sort of like really random reason. It's like you're clearly spelling it wrong intentionally. Like I spelled it right for you. Like all you had to do was take the words that I put here and
Oh,
put them here.
copy and paste it.
So, all right, well, you know, I guess since I don't know anything else we want to talk about with David Lynch before we go on to the
Mhm. Crazy
uh,
clown time. Did you ever listen to it?
oh the
Crazy Clown Time album by David Lynch.
no, I can't
Oh.
No,
say.
It's I don't know. It's something.
I'm guessing you have listened to the Crazy Clown
Oh,
Time.
some of it, little bits and pieces.
I mean, I know
Yeah.
Ralph Garman's got that impression of David Lynch. Hey, how are you? That high pitch,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. So that's what I think of a lot actually whenever David Lynch, Ralph
oh,
I,
Garman.
the impression.
Yeah.
I've always meant to watch Twin Peaks. It's one of those shows that like I've always heard about, but I was when it was on the first time around, I was too young to watch it, so I don't necessarily know if I wasn't allowed to or my parents were just like, no, it's just this is whatever. But like I just remember the Simpsons where like Homer was watching Twin Peaks and it was like a little person dancing with a horse and he's like, I get it now. And I'm like,
You're just so lost.
yeah, it's just like I don't even so yeah, one of these days I'll get around to watching it and I'll probably be like, this is what everybody was about, but whatever.
Yeah.
I know a lot of Twin Peaks was about the Black Dahlia murder, like just from a different perspective without directly saying it was about the Black Dahlia murder, because he was apparently obsessed with that particular true crime story.
Hmm.
But whatever. I mean, I appreciated while I didn't watch a lot of it or didn't understand a lot of it, I appreciated that it existed because like you need to have the weirder stuff and the people who are willing to do kind of crazy or out there stuff rather than just the
Yeah,
same.
you don't need the cookie cutter kind of
Right.
stuff.
Speaking
Yeah.
of cookie cutter, what has anybody watched the last couple weeks?
I don't get how that correlates to cookie cutter.
Well, one of the things I watched.
Oh, well, I wrote down in my handy dandy notebook for 2025 so I can write down things I've watched so I can remember. That's not,
Look at you being responsible and studious, bringing
yeah.
actual content.
Uh,
At least one of the three of us is trying.
yeah. Well, I'm still working my way through the Arrowverse. I didn't write that down because I just said I was going to work on that. I think I'm on season 2 of Arrow.
Wow, that's a lot more than you've actually seemed to have committed to this.
Yeah, I'm on like I think this would be episode 25 out of the 800 some episodes that are in the Arrowverse.
Oh,
So we'll see how long I stay committed. Otherwise, I might have to commit myself to an institution.
well, that might be true, regardless of whether you finish the Arrowverse or not.
That's true. I watched Wallace and Gromit for Vengeance Most Foul.
Hmm.
Is that the
Uh,
newest one?
yep, that was the one that came
Oh,
out this year, 2025, where Wallace creates a gnome to help around the house.
okay. I'll have to watch it. I've enjoyed them in the past.
Same. As I saw it and I was like, I enjoy these, like Curse of the Were-Rabbit. And so I was like, all right, I'll throw this on. I caught the first episode of Shifting Gears.
I did as well.
Didn't watch the second one. I thought the first one was okay. Seems like there's some room for it to improve.
But
But
it's it's like
I like the cast, so I'm kind of willing to see where it goes with Tim Allen, Kat Dennings, and Sean William Scott.
yeah.
He's in that?
Yeah,
Oh, that's interesting.
right. So I'm like, I'll see where it goes.
It's like I think it's like most sitcoms. It's gonna take a few episodes for them to really find their groove.
Right.
It's a very rare sitcom like Community where like the first episode knocks it out of the park and goes.
It is
Most
often
most sitcoms take a couple of episodes before they
right.
finally.
Yeah, the pilot's always a little different. So, I haven't watched the second one, but I will. And the only other one I started season 2 of Wild Card Kitchen
Okay,
because I've really enjoyed that show.
I've not watched that one yet.
You don't watch season 1 or anything?
No, we started we started a couple months ago. Beat Bobby Flay. I think I talked about that. We've been burning through, but then we started Bobby's Triple Threat.
Okay.
So we're
Are you familiar with Wild Card Kitchen?
I have seen I
That's the
have
poker one.
seen I've seen, yeah, you talked about it before, so I'm familiar with it. I just haven't watched it yet.
Yeah. And then I started Catch Me, you're not Catch Me If You Can. I do like that movie. I started the Now You See Me because they're on Tubi.
Okay, yeah, I
Hmm.
want to watch those.
I think they're only up for 13 days, it said.
Sure. I've
So
seen Tubi say that. Tubi told me that they were going to be taking Gilligan's Island off 6 months or a year or so ago, but yet it's still on there. So
Tubi told me they were taking this off.
What
Sounds,
else does Tubi say to
yeah.
you?
Tubi told me. All right, Jeremy, I'm done. Go.
Oh boy, it's just so much. It's amazing. Old episodes of Seinfeld on TV Land. Uh, an episode of Freddy's Nightmares.
oh, okay.
It's a really shitty show, but I like it because, you know,
Where did
it's
you find
fun.
that?
Well, actually, I got this gift for my birthday from Chris that's got it's like a Plex server and it's just got like a bunch of old shit. He set up each thing to have its own channel and each channel has its own thing of like one channel is like all Jason and Freddy movies. Another channel is all like the Nightmare on Elm Street series and the Jason series and like a bunch of different anthology stuff. So it just like plays randomly. You can like tune in like it's a TV.
Oh,
Wow,
So
that's cool.
it's really nice. Yeah. So I caught an episode of that, and I'll probably go back and watch. There's actually one that is like an origin story of like Freddy that I have heard good things about, but I haven't seen. But the rest of them are like totally unrelated to Nightmare. They're just like short horror stories.
Yeah, wasn't the Freddy's Dead series like an anthology series, kind of like Twilight Zone or Outer
Mhm.
Limits?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
was Robert Englund as Freddy like the host of each episode, or was it
Not really, not exactly. I
okay?
mean, they make like references to him and he's in the intro, but he doesn't really like present anything, at least
Oh,
in the
okay,
one that I watched.
okay.
Yeah.
So it's just basically like we're gonna do a horror anthology and we're gonna slap a name on it to get you to watch it.
Pretty much, yeah. And I think
Okay.
it's set in Springwood. I think everything is set in Springwood.
Oh,
So,
okay.
but yeah, I don't know. What else did I watch? Oh, I have a douche of the week. It would be Patrick Mahomes,
Ah,
that Muppet little bitch who keeps flopping around. So I did watch that, unfortunately. I watched some of it. I mean, I was mingling most of the time,
mm,
but I did watch some of that.
yeah.
So I don't know when the league's gonna stop filleting that guy, but
Around the same
I,
time the league stops filleting Tom Brady.
he doesn't play anymore, so I don't think the league's doing that.
Yeah, they still are. They let him call games and he's awful.
He's no different than any
Not
other announcer I've listened to, so I don't know what kind of crack you're smoking.
I
the good
like
kind.
I like how he's not allowed to criticize the refs during the commentary, even though you can tell he wants to.
Hmm.
Yep.
Because if he does,
Let's
he'll
blame the NFL for that.
if he does, he'll get fined because he's a partial owner or minority owner of the Raiders.
Yep.
So he's not allowed to badmouth the refs without getting fined.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be
I think that's
announcer.
probably a lot of people, though. There's like all sorts of other like, table things that on.
Hey,
So,
I'm a partial owner. You don't really hear me
I mean,
badmouth
yeah,
the refs
That
yeah.
is,
on national television.
well, you're not on national television.
All right, case in point.
All right.
No, anyways, Tom Brady rules. Mahomes can suck a dick.
Mahomes rules.
Yeah, pretty much. A lot of
You
refs.
know, I've
Inks.
I've
Knobs.
I've changed my opinion. I didn't care if the Chiefs won or lost, but now I want them to win the three Super Bowls in a
I
row.
bet you do.
I don't. I'm over the Chiefs.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's see. What did I watched today I watched that new Netflix movie Back in Action where Cameron Diaz
Okay.
came out of
Hard
retirement.
pass.
Cameron Diaz came out of retirement for some
Should have stayed retired.
it's all right.
I don't even know what it is this
This
whole
is what
time.
this is what I was talking about with Cookie Cutter. I mean, it was so like Jess and I were watching it and we're like, I bet this is gonna happen. Yep, there it goes.
Mm,
I bet it's predictable. I mean, there was one little twist that we didn't see coming, but probably should have. It's kind of surprising that this is the movie that she came out of retirement for, because it was just,
When's the last movie she did?
I think Annie in like 2014.
oh my God.
Like she took a 10-year retirement to like raise her kids and have a family with Benji Madden and whatever. I mean, she had done. I mean, I mean, from The Mask until Annie, she had been just back to back to back to back to back. So she took a break, and that's fine. And now she's, after 10 years off, she's gonna come out of retirement. I've got no problem with that. I
Yeah,
just think it's weird that this is the movie she came out of retirement for. You know, maybe it was just to get her feet wet and do something a little, cheesy. I mean, it's your standard cut by numbers, spy thriller. Her and Jamie Foxx are spies who decide to retire and they have some kids and then something happens and they have to go back. It's the Mark Wahlberg movie from a couple years ago where Mark Wahlberg was a spy and he was hiding the fact that he was a spy from his family and then something happens and it's True Lies. I mean it's been done before. It will be done again and
right.
I will. The other thing, well, I've watched a couple things, but the thing I watched last weekend, I watched the entire first season of Severance, that Adam Scott show on Apple TV.
Hmm.
Um, it's really good. It's kind of strange. It's a little out there. It's a slow burn. Like it's not like so. All right, either of you familiar with the show Severance? No.
Negative.
Okay, so it's set in a world where they can do something. They can put a chip in your brain where, like, when you get to work, they can turn part of your brain off.
They already do that.
So
My brain
whatever
shuts off the moment I walk in that front door.
whatever you do at work, like you literally have no idea who you are outside of work. Like you're a different person. And then when you leave work, they turn the chip back off and you have no idea what you did at work. Like you're basically two separate people. But
That's
you're the same
that
person.
sounds like current day. Jeremy, does it not?
Hmm.
You walk in, you don't know what you're doing. You
No,
go
I mean
brain
like
neutral.
no, like legitimately, like if like when Adams they're like, "Oh, you work over there? Yeah, what do you do over there?" I have no idea. Because they literally turn your brain off. Like you, the person in the building and the person out of the building, while technically and legally the same person, might as well be two separate people because they do not have the same memories. They do not have the same,
Hmm.
so, um, but it's really weird, kind of mysterious stuff is happening inside the building, and you're trying to figure it out. It's a mystery. It's like I said, it's a little bit of a slow burn, but it's once it grabs you, you're like, okay, what is going on here? I really, so highly recommend it. Way more than Back in Action.
All right.
Hard pass.
Um, and then I was watching Loot also on Apple TV, the Maya Rudolph show, where like basically like she's married to some sort of Jeff Bezos type and she finds out he's cheating. So she divorces him and now has $87 billion
Oh, all
and
right.
like goes, finds out that she has a charity foundation. So she goes to work for that to try to be a better person. Ron Funches is in it.
Okay.
So it's been interesting. It's not as funny as I thought it would be, but it's been it's been funny and we're kind of worth watching. I think I'll continue.
Okay.
I as well also watch Shifting Gears,
One episode in.
one episode in. So I'll give it another couple episodes before I decide fully whether or not I'm going to commit to it or not.
All right.
I because I like at the beginning of the season I tried that new Reba show, Happy's Place. Yeah,
Didn't know.
she did a new show called Happy's Place where she owns a bar and finds out we gave it like 4 or 5 episodes before we were like, yeah, this isn't getting any better. We're done with this show.
That's fair.
We tried, you know, maybe if we hear that it got better, we'll go back to it, but probably not.
All right.
I have been enjoying St. Denis Medical. It's kind of like The Office or Parks and Rec, but set in a hospital.
I hear it's like Superstore.
Or yeah, I mean, it's definitely more along the lines of The Office or Parks and Rec because it's more documentary. Like it's the mockumentary thing that those two shows had going for it.
All right.
But it has some of the people from Superstore are in St. Denis Medical. I think the same guy who created Superstore created this one as well. So it has kind of a feel to it, but
Oh, I watched the Abbott Elementary Always Sunny crossover.
yes.
That was
Do
pretty
you
good.
have you watched Abbott Elementary before?
No, I haven't seen it before, but
Oh, okay.
it seems like it'd be a pretty funny show.
Yeah, I enjoy Abbott Elementary, and it's a fun little sitcom about working in a inner city elementary school. But
Yeah.
it was that episode was kind of weird because like I love It's Always Sunny.
Hmm.
I've watched every episode of It's Always Sunny, and I've seen every episode of Abbott, and they are two opposite ends of the spectrum TV shows. One is very family friendly and safe to watch.
And the other is It's Always Sunny.
Yeah, the other is It's Always
Hmm.
Sunny. And so having these two shows interact with each other was very strange. I did appreciate the fact that they did acknowledge that Charlie can't read
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
tried to teach him how to read.
Yeah, that was funny.
Hmm.
and they taught him for the most part. I think he still wasn't
Mhm.
100% getting it, but so all right. Well then, anything else anybody want to?
No, I think that's about it. I don't really know what I'll continue to watch through the Arrowverse, see how far, before we talk again next time.
Okay.
I think I'll be pretty solidly committed until it gets to the point where it's jumping between all the shows, and then it might get a little sketchy.
It'll be really easy at first when it's just the Flash and the Arrow, because that was when it, but it's when they start adding in the other like 3 or 4 shows.
Well, all right. Well, looking through the list, like it's the whole first 2 seasons of Arrow,
Yeah.
and then it's Flash, Arrow, Flash, Arrow, Flash, Arrow. Constantine falls into that spectrum.
Oh, okay.
So
But I
yeah,
don't,
once Constantine falls in, I'll be like, all right.
yeah, and that's stretching it because Constantine, when they did it, didn't really originally fall into the Arrowverse. Like it had
Right.
nothing to do with it until later when they decided to bring him into Legends of Tomorrow.
But
So
I'll still watch it because I did enjoy the Constantine series.
I thought, didn't you watch it when it was on the first time?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
there's only 1 season, and I have it on Vudu, so I'll be able to actually watch that too. Yeah.
I would like to say, if you've made it this far, Damon, we appreciate that you listen. Um, if you want to suggest an episode, feel free to reach out to any of us or let Jeremy know, and we'll create an episode just for you.
Hmm.
Yeah, we tend to our audience.
Since we have an audience of one, Damon will do a show just for you.
Hmm.
We appreciate the listen.
Yeah.
Anything else, Jeremy, you got going on?
Not right now, but dusting off some old stuff that I'll be working on soon. So
I know you just put out an episode of We Do Go to Ravenholm.
I did, yes. We did a little video game mascot bracket. Those are always fun. We love our brackets around here. And the video of that will be coming out soon. I got to work on that. And then hopefully that series will be kind of like brought back from the dead too and more continuous this year. So look out for that. Go subscribe and do some shit with that.
So,
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
all right. Well then, what was since I butchered it, why don't you say it right? And that's how we'll end the episode. Justin,
Okay. Get up, get out of here, gone. End of the episode.
Comic books have been around for almost a century, and in the last 2 decades, we've finally gotten to see many of these characters brought to life in movies and on TV. On the Moving Panels podcast, we discuss movies and TV shows based on, inspired by, and adapted from the world of comic books. Join me and my guests as we discuss both the good and the bad from Marvel, DC, and even some of the lesser-known comic book companies. Learn what is and isn't from the comics, as well as our nerdy review of the movie or show. New episodes drop every Monday, and you can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. So join us for Moving Panels, and I'll see you on the other side of the page.
Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and listen to an 80s Flick Flashback podcast once in a while, you could miss it. Do you love movies of a certain age? Do you miss the days of VHS tapes, VCRs, and the video rental stores? Does the thought of another 80s movie being remade seem inconceivable? My name is Tim Williams. I'm the creator and host of the 80s Flick Flashback podcast. On each episode, I'm joined by guest co-hosts to discuss one of the many movies released in the 1980s. We share our first-time watch memories, our favorite scenes, and even learn some behind-the-scenes stories about the cast and crew along the way. New episodes are released every other Friday on your favorite podcasting platform. So make like a tree, get out of here, and go listen to an excellent episode of the 80s Flick Flashback podcast. The ad is over. Go home. Go.